Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? We have a jam-packed episode for you. You're going to hear from Jared McCann in his exit interview and maybe what some of what he said has to do with the new coach that we will have to hire. Speaking of new coach, maybe one of those coaches, or at least a candidate, is going to come from our Coachella Valley Firebirds, who just took game one from the Ontario Reign in the AHL playoffs. And finally, we'll hear from Tad O'Had about the Kansas City Mavericks as they get ready for their next series in the ECHL playoffs. Jam-packed episode coming up on Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to our Friday episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you your favorite team every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken, and I'm pretty excited for a jam-packed episode. For those of us who are meeting for the first time, I've been the show host from the very beginning, took you to the expansion draft, gave you the updates on Dave Haxtell, hired while I was over by the Brooklyn Bridge. Still one of my favorite videos. Unfortunately, now Dave Haxtell has moved on and we are looking for a new head coach. And again, maybe there's one already in our ranks, but we might not know until the playoffs wrap, especially in the AHL. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, I know the schedule's been a little bit wonky, so thank you for your patience. I've got this weekend and then next weekend, and then I am done with wedding duties, so I'm very excited. Also, the start of the WNBA season had me a little all over the place, but I wanted to get back to our player exit interviews, and I want to have you hear from Jared McCann. Now, Jared McCann currently playing with Hockey Canada in the IIHF World Championships, and Canada doing pretty well. And he's playing with a few Kraken players. We've got actually Brandon Tanev, one of the leading scorers for Team Canada, Jamie Oleksiak. Then there's also some Kraken players playing throughout. We know Philip Grubauer, Andre Burakovsky, and on and on. So for today, you've got Czechia playing Austria right now at the time I'm recording, Team Czechia leading. USA versus Poland, no score yet in that one. And then we have Germany and Kazakhstan played earlier. Germany gets that win 8-2. And we have some games, including Canada taking on Finland on May 18th. That's Saturday. And Sweden versus Latvia, as well as Denmark versus Switzerland. So we'll start keeping you up to date on what's happening in World Championships. But this is the Locked On Kraken show. And although we do have some Kraken players again in this tournament, I also want to get to some of what is happening in our feeder systems. So we're going to talk about that. But again, just want to point out that we do have some Kraken players, several in fact, that are playing in IIHF. Philip Grubauer playing for Team Germany, one of the top 10 goalkeepers in the games. He's got, right now, just about 74 minutes, nearly, in the tournament. 115 shots on goal. That's up there. Only Denmark's goalie, Frederick Ditchow, has more shots on goal faced than Philip Grubauer. And if you look at goals against, also up there, but there are certain teams in certain federations where you know that you're going to be putting in a lot as a goaltender. Save percentage, though, again, Philip Grubauer, top 10. He's right now at an 89.74. His goals against average right now, a 3.27. But Germany at all levels is still right now a federation where, because of who's playing in front of their netminders, there is a little bit of an expectation that we're going to see them get peppered just a little bit. If we look at the skater stats overall, I mean, I said individually for Hockey Canada, you see that, Brandon Tanev up there. I really love the idea of getting Tanev started. When we look at Kraken players in particular, Andre Burakovsky, top 20 right now. And what we're seeing, games played for, has 2 goals for his home country. And, again, he's kind of in that mix, but, there's still a little bit of work that the Kraken need to do to be able to get even some of the players who we're seeing at the international level who are doing pretty well. I'm very curious to see who some of the face-off leaders are in this tournament. John Tavares leading, Trevor Zegras up there, Brady Tkachuk, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare also there. Someone we didn't hear from in exit interviews. You know how I feel about that. But Jared McCann, let's hear from Jared McCann. These are the exit interviews. It's about 2 minutes here of Jared speaking, and then I'll break some of this down for you on Locked On Kraken.
Obviously very disappointed. We, especially off the year we had last year, we had high expectations for ourselves and as an organization. So obviously not to be able to make it's tough, but we're going to keep growing, keep moving forward. Yeah, we're going to have to restart and reset. Everybody's going to have to come with a different mindset that, we're going to be the underdogs again next year, and I think we're better off for it. I don't know. It's easy to point fingers and say we could have done things differently, and whether it be areas on the ice and personnel stuff like that. But at the end of the day, each guy has to look at themselves and give a little bit extra, I think.
What are some of those things for you personally? I mean, what are you going to be working on this off season to try to get better?
Just continue. Every single year I do the same thing. I'm gonna keep doing what I've been doing. I feel like I could be a little bit better defensively. Whether that be obviously that systems wise and kind of watching video and just learning from stuff like that. So I think I can do better that way. Yeah, I feel pretty good right now. Obviously I'm gonna go over to Worlds and try to help Canada win a gold medal. And that's what my sights are set on right now. Playing center's hard. Yeah, in the NHL, it's very difficult, and the systems that we play, especially here, they ask a lot of the centerman, and it's something that I can do. I've done it before in the past, so whatever happens next year, if I'm at center or wing, obviously I think I'm gonna find out here in the next little bit what the plan is, and but maybe prepared. The point of this is to go for a Stanley Cup, to make it to the playoffs is huge, and it's very tough, obviously, but that's where I want to be.
So there's Jared McCann. He talked about a bunch of things here, folks, and he also talked about the system. I like a system that's going to give our centermen a little bit of extra work, and that's going to be focused defensively. But I've had this conversation on the podcast before. There are some people that disagree with me, and arguably the NHL kind of is trending to really having specialists as opposed to having everybody do a little bit of everything. Now, the Seattle Kraken kind of need everybody to do everything because we don't have really standout stars, at least not yet. And so when it comes to what's going to happen in the off season, I'm very curious to see where the Seattle Kraken go with their head coach, because if I were putting the money down, I would want a head coach and then that vacant assistant coach to be someone that can help bring this team to a better defensive spot. And I know the analytics and all of that stuff. I do believe in advanced analytics, and I don't trust advanced analytics when it comes to defense. I just don't. And so that's a little bit of a gripe. I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, perhaps, when it comes to all sports. But speaking of coaches, we've mentioned that Disco Dan Bilesma might be in the running. Considering that the Coachella Valley Firebirds are now moving on once again and already have game 1 over Ontario, this could be not just a tryout for some of the kids. It was actually a question Jared McCann was asked, some of the young guns that we saw up in the Kraken organization late in the season. Was that a tryout of sorts? But maybe this Firebird success is also a little bit of a tryout for Disco Dan Bilesma and maybe other members of his coaching staff. I am going to talk about that in the off season with the person who will be in our next segment. That's the one and only Jason JD Hernandez is going to be joining the show. But I want you to hear our full conversation. We're calling it a family reunion. So there'll be a bonus episode this Friday. You can listen to our full conversation, JD and I. But coming up next, JD is going to take you through some keys to success against the Ontario Reign. But you're going to want to listen to that bonus episode because we talk about Chris Drieger versus Joey Decord with regard to the Coachella Valley Firebirds. You're not going to want to miss it. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Mentioned it at the top of the show. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Game Time. I cannot say enough about Game Time. I travel a lot, and anytime I happen to have some downtime, I'm checking out the Game Time app. Where can I find a baseball game? Are one of my favorite bands in town, and where can I find the best deal? And usually it's using this thing right here, my mobile device, and picking up Game Time. I can pick out specific games and matchups that I love to attend and find great deals. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy MLB tickets. And I can tell you this because I've done it multiple times. I tell you all the time that I use the Game Time app when I want to go find M's games. A friend of mine who lives in Seattle, we love to sit on the third base side. That's just where I like to watch the game, unless I'm at Citi Field. Then usually I sit first base side. But anyway, I can find what I need on Game Time. Last minute deals. You can save up to 60% off by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. And of course, you have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create that account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Hope you enjoy as much as I do. All right, Seattle hockey fans, I know that you love the Seattle Kraken, but we also want to talk about our development system. And I'm not even talking about prospects because we have prospects playing for other teams doing fantastic things. Talked a little bit about that on an earlier episode this week, but I'm going to take you to my conversation with the one and only JD Hernandez. Now, again, there's going to be the bonus episode, which is the full episode. You can listen to JD and I chopping it up about a lot of really fun things, but you have to listen to that bonus episode, which will drop also today on Friday. But for now, let's hear what JD thinks will be the keys to this series and getting a series win over a very good power play team, the Ontario Reign. Between how some of the young guns, that's the last time we did our family reunion. The last time we did a family reunion, we were talking about some of the let the kids play, right? So between the time that the kids spent in Seattle versus what you're seeing in Coachella Valley, who are some of the players that you think have done enough in their quote unquote auditions to be given high consideration by the time these two organizations and a few members of the Mavericks get to training camp in the fall?
I got two names for you.
All right.
One, Shane Wright. Two, Logan Morrison.
Ooh.
Why are we not talking about Logan Morrison a little bit more? Another guy that does the little things. Another guy that gets into the dirty areas.
Lomo, let's go.
Another guy that doesn't get the glory of the goals, but gets some very important apples in pretty much every win that the Firebirds have had.
I like it.
So
I like
think those
that
are
pick.
two names to keep an eye on, folks. Shane and Lomo.
I love it. We talked about Lomo. Poor Lomo. They were trying to feed him so bad. It was adorable. It was
She
adorable.
has such a good attitude.
Today's episode of Locked on Kraken also brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. We know it. We love it. Passion, drive, and patience. That is the formula to winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply, and the eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. Thanks, as always, for making Locked on Kraken a part of your daily destination. We have the Coachella Valley Firebirds crushing it in the playoffs, but let's not forget our Kansas City Mavericks as well, and they will start another series with the Toledo Walleye. I got to speak to Tad O'Had, and our insiders, you got the full conversation with Tad. I'm going to play a little bit of a snippet of that here on Locked on Kraken. And if you want to become one of our insiders, make sure that you text us at 918-731-3154. Again, that's 918-731-3154. But without further ado, the one and only Tad O'Had was gracious enough to talk to me on a game day. And we also talked about why this series is starting on the road, as well as who is starting in net for the Kansas City Mavericks. Here is head coach and general manager of your Kansas City Mavericks, Tad O'Had, Washington native. Did you know that? I've mentioned it on the pod before. Here's Tad. Thinking about the last series, your team's been able to be pretty dominant. What are some of the things that you like going into this series, and what are some of the things that you still want to push the team to do?
I like the pace in which we're playing. We're pushing the pace. We're utilizing our whole entire lineup. I definitely like that. I think our goaltending is very, very consistent and strong, and our defense has been responsible. I think our level of physicality has been strong, which is important in playoff time. As we move forward into this series, it's just going to be stinginess with the puck and our puck management, making sure that we're making high percentage plays.
And the ECHL, you start on the road. Are there any challenges that you have to consider, especially when it comes to playoff hockey, when starting a series on the road, as opposed to, having that series start at home for you?
Yeah, so this was more on our building availability. And so although it's strange, in the ECHL at times you have to find the lesser of evils. We had the ability of, turning the series over to them and giving them the 2-3-2. We had another odd one, which was like a 1-3-3 with 5 games in 6 nights, which isn't safe for the players. Or we start on the road. Fact of the matter is, if we want to have success in this series, you're going to have to win games on the road. We've been an incredibly successful team all year on the road, set the ECHL road record, since 1988. And, we don't back down from challenges. And so our guys embrace this challenge. They look at it as something to come in and take care of business. And, we haven't been an organization. We haven't been a team that's backed down from any challenges all season. So why start now?
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about some of your players, specifically looking at Patrick Curry, who is leading the team right now in points in the playoffs, but has split that between goals and assists evenly. What do you get from Pat, and how important will he be to the success of the team moving forward?
Yeah, I think he'll be vital. I think he's one of the top players in the ECHL. His line is an elite level line. Arguably one of the top 2 lines in the ECHL. He plays such a 200-foot game. I mean, he competes defensively as hard as he does offensively. He doesn't cheat the game. He doesn't cut corners. He plays with a lot of pace. He's instinctual. He can put the puck in the back of the net, but his defensive details are great. He tracks extremely hard. He adds an element of physicality, and he just gels very well with his two line mates, Kate Borchardt and Nolan Walker. I think one of the things that we've done this year is really keep them consistent so they're able to gel together. Patrick Curry's a difference maker.
I love it. And then finally, I'll get you out of here on this one, Coach. We've talked so much about the depth and the luxury that it is that you have goaltenders throughout the system that have been able to really step up for you, get those wins regardless of the situation. You continue to have that success in the playoffs, but who are you going to give this game to? And what is it going to take between Kale and Jack to really close out this series in the way that you hope you can?
Yeah, first of all, it'll be a team effort. It'll be a group effort. Tonight, Kel will go, and we have a lot of exhausting conversations with regards to who's going, and we like involving both of them because both of them have been rock steady. Kel will go this evening, and really we'll just focus in on one game at a time. Kel's very calm and composed. He's been rock steady for us, and we love what our staff has done with him and Jack. Got a lot of confidence in both of them.
Well, I always appreciate your time. I know it's a game day, so I don't want to keep you any longer than necessary, but hopefully we'll connect again before it's all said and done.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right. Once again, a great conversation with Tad O'Had. I really enjoy having Tad in the pipeline. I find him to be a fantastic hockey mind. He loves talking hockey. You can tell it. He's got a lot of passion. I get the sense that he also has a lot of structure with his team. And so, if you want to know what Jason JD Hernandez, the voice of the Coachella Valley Firebirds, at least at Acrisure Arena, what he thinks about Tad O'Had and the Kansas City Mavericks, make sure to check out that full bonus episode. We also talk about Jack LaFontaine because on the docket is us talking about Drieger versus DeCord with respect to how they've played in the playoffs for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. It's not a fair comparison for a lot of reasons, and yet I know it's what you want to hear. What is the difference between a Joey DeCord-led team and a Chris Drieger-led team? And I think, honestly, JD and I had a great conversation about that. So don't forget to listen to that bonus episode. But that's going to do it for this Friday, regular episode. Before I go, though, I want to make sure you know how you can watch the Coachella Valley Firebirds and the Kansas City Mavericks in action tonight. On Friday, May 17th, Game 2, Ontario at Coachella Valley. And if you listen to the bonus episode, there's a car wash special happening in the Valley that you might want to check out. That's happening at 7 p.m. Pacific time. The next game, of course, will be on Sunday, May 19th, and CV, Coachella Valley, will be on the road. Now, the good thing is these two teams really not that far apart. That will also be 7 p.m. Pacific time, depending on how things go on Sunday. The teams will next play on Friday, the 24th. So there's a decent amount of time. Again, these two teams aren't far from each other. So I'm very curious to see what the Firebirds do at that time off. And we might be able to catch up with one of the coaches for that series. And then I want to take you to the Western Conference Finals in the ECHL. You just heard Tad talk a little bit about why they're playing on the road despite having a really great record in the league. And that's logistics. It happens, especially at the lower levels. But Kansas City playing 3 games on the road. Friday, May 17th, that's tonight at 6:15 Central. So that's 4:15 Pacific time. Then game 2 will be on Saturday, May 18th, and game 3 on Monday, May 20th. All of those 6:15 Central time starts, which means that's 4 p.m. Pacific time. And you best believe we'll be tapping in. I love that the Mavericks have been very open to us having conversations with Tad. They get us on the phone with Tad, no problems. And the Firebirds have been very accommodating as well. So hopefully they'll both have a deep run. And this is something that we can do not just for the playoffs, because again, the Kraken not in the playoffs this year, but something that we can continue to build on throughout the year. All right, you know what it is. It's time to say goodbye, and hope you have a great weekend and watching plenty of hockey, including some of our affiliates playing. But be kind to yourself, be kind to one another. We hold fast, we stay true, we get fired up, and of course, we support our Kansas City Mavericks. I will catch you on the next episode. Until then, peace out, everybody.